As we talked about it last week, the Kraken finished up their season, and now we have a little bit of a season in review. We're not too much of we're already kind of pushing it here, so I'm not like going into the deep stats and this and that, but we've got some little like highlight news kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's get started with that.
Go ahead.
Well, this is your segment, but looking at most valuable player, I think it was pretty synonymous. We both took Yanni Gourde, and this was, I mean, selected by the fans as a fan favorite and kind of voted as the Guile Fielder Award, as the guy who just shows the heart and hustle. It could have been Jared McCann having a solid year, and I get that, but I saw Yanni as a guy, that was there for 30, probably 30 plus games. Yanni Gourde was a guy that always brought the effort, always was skating around, had a smile on his face all the time, and was so valuable to this club in their inaugural season. So I think it was hard to go with anybody else, really.
Yeah. It's hard to disagree with the fans when the fans think that someone had such a big impact on the team. So that's exactly why I agreed with you there. For Rookie of the Year, Chuck's choice and my choice, agreeing, Matty Beniers.
I think it was hard to disagree with this. This is a guy that's your number 2 overall pick, and he's kind of deemed as the future of the franchise, and he didn't do anything to discourage that with his play when he got called up after the Final Four loss from Michigan. So, I mean, it'll be really exciting to see him get an offseason with the coaching staff and with his teammates and really just be able to continue to build on already a solid start to his career. Yeah, I mean, it was hard. Obviously, we'd had some solid rookie contributions from the club, but I think Beniers was by far sort of the guy there. Looking at Defender of the Year, it's tough because a lot of people like the way that Jemmy Alexiak really contributed to the club, and I get that. But Adam Larson, for me, was a guy that played in every single game, was a guy that was able to contribute on the offensive end as well with a decent amount of goals. And I mean, just being there for every single game, being a consistent spot, not being scratched ever from the lineup as a healthy guy, just always being in the lineup, I think that's invaluable. If you're playing at least good, they're going to find a spot for you in the lineup. And that's what happened with Adam Larson.
And we were talking about this one earlier, the best goaltender, Philip Grubauer, and looking at just how many games he played, he was on that list a lot. So
yeah, and it's tough with Gruby because I know at the beginning of the year there was a lot. I mean, as someone who covers those guys, I have to hear this, but there was a lot. The goaltender's not doing that well. If we sat through the film of these goals that were given up, granted there will be ones that Gruby could have played better, right? There were a lot of goals that the defense just let him out to dry, and I mean, he really settled in the second half of the season. So I think that it is tough because, like you said, he played a lot more than Chris Drieger did. That's a coaching thing. Can't really play out of that. But I think Philip will be fine going into the next year. Let him really get comfortable with this club. And he had a great second half, I thought. Well, maybe not great, but he performed a lot better than he did in the first half. So I think he'll be totally fine. And I think the defense played well too, better as the second half went on. So yeah, I'm not worried about Philip. I know that there were some people like, oh, you signed him to a 6-year deal. Is that okay? It's like, he'll be fine. Favorite moment, we have a different decision here. I went with the 5-3 win over the Florida Panthers earlier in the season. I just remember this was a game where Florida was at the top of the league in the standings, right? So you're playing one of the best teams in the league. You're already out of the playoffs. And you beat them on home ice. So, take the Climate Pledge Arena atmosphere and you add the, beating the best team in the league at the time or so.
Yeah.
And there was a fight. I remember Yanni Gourde got in a fight at some point in this game. I believe it was in the second period where both guys just dropped the gloves. And because of the way that the game had been going, because of the atmosphere, I didn't do this, with my body did this on its own, like subconsciously. I don't know if that's the right word, but my body just started clapping like this, I was just, my brain hit another switch and I was like, nope, this is good. I didn't do that on purpose. I looked over to the guy sitting next to him in the press box. He said, did you see me do that? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I didn't do that. I didn't voluntarily do that.
That was all in my head.
That was involuntary. Like my brain said, clap. It was just a really great game. Bell went to 3-game win streak late in the season. It's hard to disagree with that. Yeah. I mean, that was Matty Beniers had just really recently been called up. New Jersey scores his first goal playing against Ottawa here. That was I think that was a 4-2 win. And then Colorado really capping it off by beating the best team in the Western Conference, a team that right now is chugging along in the playoffs and getting the first 3-game win streak in team history. I mean, it's hard to disagree with that.
First and only of the season. So moving on here. You did say that Philip Grubauer really got into the groove of things late in the season, and you had him here as the breakout year candidate for 2023. So
I think, yeah, like I was talking about, really being able to build off of his second half and continue just into the next season with, you know, some familiarity with some guys around him, probably sign some guys in free agency on the defenseman side. I think he'll have a lot better statistical season next year. We'll see, but I think he'll be a lot better.
You think we'll have major changes in the offseason?
Not too major, but okay. I think they're definitely going to add some guys because I talked about using the draft picks as capital, you know, to bring in some teams, and they've got good rosters, cap space, and GM Ron Francis has said that they'll be aggressive. So that certainly means something, I would hope.
Moving on to some team news here. On May 7th, the Kraken have signed defenseman Petro Sapala to a 2-year entry-level contract that is worth $762,500 AVV. The contract will begin at the start of the 2022-23 season. Petro is a young defenseman who skates well and has an offensive upside, said Seattle Kraken general manager Ron Francis. He's proven himself in the highest ranks in Finland, and we're excited to be adding him to our organization. Comments? Nope. All right.
I think he'll be a guy that there was some disagreement about it, but I think he'll end up in AHL Charlotte. I know they said he'll be in training camp, but I think, you know, since you shared time with Charlotte, you shared a team with them, you're going to have to fill up a full roster when you get your own AHL team. So I think at some point they're probably banking on him joining Coachella. That's all I think it is.
All right. On the 9th, the Kraken signed forward Max McCormick to a 2-year extension, also worth $762,500 AAV. Had a solid season in AHL Charlotte, played in 10 NHL games this season.
Yeah, so they signed him up shortly before Charlotte's gearing up for their playoff run. A lot of the things that I read about him were that he was a guy that was a consistent presence, a good veteran, a good leadership presence. And I think both of these signings that we just looked at are just, you know, young guys that you're going to need to fill out your Coachella roster. Why not? Why not, you know, make sure that you've got one locked up and then bring in another one with upside?
Yeah. Moving on to some league news here. Philadelphia fires their head coach. Flyers fire Mike Yeo, who took over during the season for former coach Alan.
That's a tough one. And then Vigneault, I can't help you with that.
Philly went.
Hockey's got some tough names.
Yeah. Philly went 17-36-7 with Yeo, missed postseason. And the Islanders fire their head coach. Islanders president and GM Louis I feel like I'm being tested with these. Lou Murillo has decided to move on from Barry Trotz after 4 seasons and 3 postseason appearances. Doesn't sound like a bad track record there.
I don't know about you, but 3 and 4 is pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. We'll see who they decide to replace.
And there was some murmur about, the Kraken should go out and try him. I think it's really malpractice if it's your inaugural season and you just immediately fire the coach from 1 year. Granted, you know, if Hackstall continues things don't work out, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, I'd pull the plug.
Consider it, yeah.
But it's after the first year, man. I mean, come on. There's no opportunity, you know, to really grow there.
Yeah.
So I would ease up on that idea.
And again, the Kraken ended their inaugural season with a record of 27-49-6 with 60 points and ended the division in that 8th standing.